Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video and part 2 of Heroes Jubilee 26 videos. This is going to focus on the boss battles, and I would like to lead off with the disclaimer that pretty much these stages will run essentially the same, so any team that I show off, regardless of it's boss battle 1 or 2, you could take it into the other stage and it should work, relatively okay. They do have different starting hands, like the boss battle 1 starting hand is made for a special convert, so 1 orange and 1 blue and 4 greens. And then boss battle 2 is built for either a Shuna orb steal, so triple change, or with Tria's other conversion where she steals 3 orbs into greens. So those are the only major differences. Also, the Veldora in this stage has pierce resistance, which really cuts back and means that you can't use the Light 2.0 team, but I do use the Light 2.0 team in the first boss battle. So it's just kind of like you gotta take what you got and adapt as you go. But these are my current scores. Again, I'm recording these right before I leave for vacation, so the teams might not be as optimized as I would normally have them, because I'd normally take another day or so to do boss battles, but I really wanted to get these recorded before I left, so I wasn't trying to record them while I was not at my desk. So there's a lot of variation that can happen, but I mean, I'm happy with these scores. It's only the first full day of Jubilee, so they will definitely change, but that's totally fine. These are just to give you an idea of what to use. We've got obviously the full meta, and then we've got a whole bunch of offshoot teams that can get you some kind of score. But I haven't had an alternate team get anywhere into the 100,000s, so it's just going to put that out there. But let's start with normal battle 1. Oh, also before we start, I'll pose the same question. Do you want me to split up the boss battle videos into 2 separate videos? That way you have one for boss battle 1 and one for boss battle 2, or would you still like them combined? I asked the same question in my normal battle videos, which that gets a very long video, like 40 minutes. But do you want it split up between normal 1, 2, and 3, or just one big video with timestamps? I would like to know this in time for the next Jubilee next month, so I can plan ahead. But just let me know your feedback. I'm not really particular either way. Some people like having it all in one place. Some people like having shorter videos. Totally up to you, but let me know. Alright, so this is the first team. It's the full meta, essentially, right? We've got Mirin, we've got the Light 2.0 hero, we've got, we've got the Light Hero 2.0, I got that backwards, Tria, Rain, Shuna, and then Soka. So this stage is an AoE stage, so there are 3 enemies. They're very, very weak, essentially, so you can do a lot of big-time damage to them. So ideally, you'd want to go for a Shuna ult and a Soka ult. And if you can manage an EX Soka ult, then more power to you. But obviously, the main primary damage dealer is going to be Shuna, and you want to prioritize her with all of her buffs, rather than, sacrificing her EX ult for, some other orbs. So let's go ahead and start this up. Thankfully, I had this recorded, so we can just go and jump right in. So, realistically, you want to have full hands of either greens or Shunas, and if there's anything else, it's not a good run. So, turn 1, it's built for a Tria orb change, so that's good, she's free. We're going to bring in Soka. We're going to leave Shuna in the back to see if we can get 3 orbs for somebody next turn, instead of having her here and then potentially not getting any orbs for her next turn, which can definitely happen if RNG hates you. And thankfully we do. We get 3 Soka orbs, which unfortunately, we do want Soka's ult, but we're gonna get more damage out of Shuna, realistically. This isn't like one of those things where an EX ult from Soka will do more damage than Shuna, because Shuna has the light attack buff and the crit damage buff that Soka is just not gonna get. So her damage, even at an EX, is going to be significantly weaker than Shuna. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Soka's future orb change and also the green buff from Rain, and then we're going to bring Shuna in, and we have exactly 30 points to steal, and then we'll have a full hand of Shuna. Plus we'll have Mirin going, so we'll have the follow-ups and the extra points and the crit damage, or the crit rates. So this is looking pretty good. So turn 1, full green. Turn 2, full Shuna. And we got turn 3 is going to be a full hand because we're going to have an alt and then 5 greens because we've guaranteed that using Soka. And now we just have to 12k, 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 10k, 22k. Awesome. So there we go. We get another pretty good hand, and we could actually do a lot with this. Like, we could swap the orb, we could steal into 3, which I think is what we do both of that. We steal, we swap, and we buff. Yeah, so we could do this, or we bring Soka back in for the hero now, and let her get some kind of orb so we can get her an ult, so we can hold on to that later on in the fight, which is what we do, which I think is probably a better idea than trying to do this. Plus, we could then use Soka's skill again and guarantee another full hand of greens, but now we have an EX ult for Shuna and an ult for Soka, and we're looking pretty good. It's still, turn 3 technically, and we have 2 ults, the primary ones that we want. If you can get a rain ult, I mean, more power to you, but it's not nearly as important as the other two, but it looks like I do get it here, depending on how I play these orbs right. So let's use Shuna, or not, Mirin again, so we'll redo the skill point gain and the crits, and then we can probably hide them, or we're going to send it. Ooh, okay. We're going to send their skills? Ooh. Interesting decision. Okay. We're going to full buff, and we're going to send it now. And then I guess we'll wait for next turn to see what we get. Maybe that's not the best play, because we've already gone past the turn limit for Rain's full power buff. So now it's only 20% instead of 40%. Maybe I could have used it earlier. Details. But I think what I'm doing here is I'm going to pray that we can send all this, and then the final turn we can get 6 Shuna. So 68k across the board. 432,000 damage right there on Shuna, and her 200% orb does 180k. Very good damage. And then 22 for everyone, 86, 25, 43, 91. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out where we get a full hand of Shuna, but we can at least use a few things and increase our damage. So this is going to put us over the 2 million mark. Again, ideally, this would have been a lot better had we had 3 Shuna orbs that we could steal into a full 6. And unfortunately, 3 of them are blues, which means they're just not as good. But it is what it is. But we do have 100 points, so we could do, and we should still have the light and crit damage buff, I think. I think being the key word. Actually, I don't think we do. So we're going to use it again. So we're going to steal into 5, and then just use the light and crit damage, since we still have the crit. And we'll use Mirin again? No. Okay. I should have used Mirin again because I have a charm on her, but oh well. So 32k right there. That's all the points we had to use. And that puts us again over 2 million. And then the final turn happens and it doesn't matter because we can't do anything else now. But yeah, 2 million. Very nice. And our score ends up being 124.6. So definitely pretty good. Could have been better, but that's RNG for you. So that's the full meta for Boss Battle 1. Let's move on to some alternate teams. Alright, the next team for Boss Battle 1 is going to be the Light 2.0 team. A pretty accessible team considering that Xion is on all of the Goddess of Destiny banners. The hero has been given away for free. Shinsha is a free-to-play unit along with Isis. And Rimuru, he's around, right? You could very easily swap him for somebody else, but we're using him since he fits with the entire meta. Shizu also, being around. But they're all, all these units are in the general pool, technically. So you can pull them. And again, Xion has been on so many banners lately. So this team works for this battle in a way, but does not work for Boss Battle 2 because Veldora has 50% pierce resistance for the entire fight. So not where you want to bring a pierce-focused team. But it does work here because these guys don't have anything going on. So nothing to really worry about. We do have Shinsha for the small light buff and also the turn 1 orb change, so we can use 2 skills right here to start stacking our Xion. My Xion is skill fused, so she is starting at 40% pierce power, so if you're not skill fused in level 100, then your Xion is going to hit less, definitely less, but still an effective unit for this stage, especially since she has type advantage. And well, actually 3 of these units have type advantage, so it works out fairly well. Here, we actually get kind of lucky where we can just continue to use all the skills. And so that's 5 skills used so far. We don't have to use Shizu here. We could. It would increase our damage, but I don't really want to. I'd rather just do this. Plus, we don't have Isis to buff our green gauge. Well, no, we do. We just left her in the back because I wanted all these units, and they're all light. Never mind. I'm talking out my ass. So here... now we don't have enough points to use all 3 of the orb changes, but we keep getting the hands where we potentially could. But now that we have 2 Shizus, it's time to move on. We're going to, I believe, sacrifice Rimuru, because I kind of value the AoE from Shinsha more. But let's see what I choose here. We have 2 Shinshas, we have 3 Rimurus. We're going to use the Pierce Resistance down while also buffing the green's alt gauge by 50%. And then we're going to bring in Isis, and we do sacrifice Shinsha instead. Unfortunate, but that's, the blue orb change, the green buff, so that's just 3 more skills used. This is the final turn. No, this is only... Yeah, this is the final turn before we move out into, right? This is turn 3? Yeah, this is turn 3. So, 1, pop, 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 pop. And then the final hit. Unfortunately, we're not getting too many Xion orbs in general, but we have used quite a number of skills now, so we're looking pretty good as far as our Pierce power is concerned. So 67%, we did use it last turn as well, just for a little bit of extra damage on that final hit, but now we're going to use it again and then hold it in the back, and now we're going to try and get a Shinsha ult and try and get a full 6 orb send, which we can, and this will definitely get us a Shinsha ult. We're holding on to the rewind until the final turn when we're fully buffed up, so we can send ults, send a full hand, and then the rewind kicks in, and then we can keep all the buffs, and then hopefully have a Shizu for another full send with potentially a lot of Xion orbs. Potentially. We'll see how that works out. But this is just building up ults. The Pierce is helping us a little bit as far as damage is concerned, but obviously we're not doing oodles and boodles of damage like the Gods of Destiny team would do. So this is the final turn, so here's where we're going to use the rewind, so we're going to do that. We're going to bring Xion in for Isis, because I don't really care about her ult, and I want Shinsha and Xion to get the crit damage buff right here. And then we have 15 points left over, which gives us just enough to use the light buff, but we can now swap out the hero for Rimuru, so he can get the light buff. And we get a natural full hand of greens anyways, but since we are so close to getting double Shizu, we're going to use it anyway, give everyone Pierce. And then that means on the rewind turn, we can get a full hand, hopefully getting a lot of Xion orbs. But I kind of mess up there. I should have sent the Shinsha orbs last instead of the Rimuru, because Rimuru doesn't have the crit, but a slight misplay on my part. 156k with Xion's ult is fairly good for a unit as old as she. Could have done like 32k with Shinsha there if we had sent it in a different order. But here the rewind kicks in, and we get 1 Xion orb. So, whoop-de-doo. But we can use another Pierce Resistance down. I don't remember if that was already active or not. But whatever, it's another skill, and not that it really matters. But now we can just send all of this, and this is just extra damage. If this was a whole hand of Xion, it would look a whole lot better. 15k, and then Xion does 40-something? No, 76,000. So yeah, it'd be really nice if we had all that for her instead of Shinsha orbs, but that's how it worked out, and I don't really feel like doing it over. So you could potentially get a better turn, and you could cross the 700 barrier if you had a whole bunch of Xion orbs. But, I mean, the team works. 54.2k is definitely not 124, but if you don't have the meta, you gotta use what you got. So let's move on to the last Boss Battle 1 team that I have for you. Alright, the last team for Boss Battle 1 I'm going to show you is the World of Fantasy team with Frey and Milim, also bringing Xion again, so I mean, she fits on the team. She's a very versatile unit, actually. We've got Shizu and Hero, which I know are very premium units, so If you don't have them, swap them out for Isis or swap them out for an attack buffer or something. I don't really know. Could certainly bring Trya if you want, but we do have both orb changes turn 1 covered with Milim and either Shizu and Shion. We've also brought Alice to give us the Pierce to activate Shion's skills and also enhance the damage that Milim does if we do happen to put the Pierce on her. But this team, was because we're changing greens and also giving us 40 points in critting, it's going to work probably a lot better than the Light 2.0 team, just because it's newer and we have 3 EX units with much better stats. So let's go ahead and turn this battle on. So again, turn 1, Milim can cover the blue, and then Shizu or Shion can cover the orange. So that both of those are stacking up the crit damage and Pierce power for Shion and Milim. So it works out fairly well using more skills for that, but it does mean that things cost a little bit more later on. But we're going to send Milim first and Shion last because she does have type advantage, and she does do about 2,000 more damage than Milim, so it works out pretty well. And then this hand also works out fairly well because we are able to get Frey online while using a butt ton of points because we have 127 to play with realistically. So we're actually going to use, I think, the debuff now with the hero, and then we'll use it again later on. But this will help us do just additional damage. And then we're going to bring Shizu in for the hero, use a stack of her attack buff because it's going to hit both of the units, well, all 3 of them technically. We'll use a single orb change for funsies. We'll use the crit damage and attack buff with Milim, again, just for funsies, just because it's another skill. We'll use Frey, give us the 40 points, give us the full hand of greens, and I don't remember if I use anything else now. No, I don't. But I actually should have sent Milim last here because she has the crit damage now. So, again, a slight misplay on my part. Don't do that. Oh well. But here we have a Shion ult, so we can essentially hold her in the back. And then looking at our hand, we don't have Frey, because again, we don't have Isis buffing our hands. But we have enough to where, once I realize it, I can use the orb change with Alice, and then we'll have just enough to use another of the orange orb changing. So I need to come to that realization really fast and do math in my head, which takes me forever to do. But we do end up getting there eventually. So I believe I swap Shion out for Alice. There you go. And then I use Alice's... No, not that one. The other one. There we go. And then the orb change from Shizu gives us a full hand of greens. And then we can bring in the hero for Alice, because she's light, and she'll do more damage. Milim doesn't have the crit anymore, so we'll do more damage with the hero. 5,700 right there. And then, I mean, we're looking pretty good. Can we get an EX ult with Milim, though? Unlikely. Possibly. It kind of depends on your RNG. If this were to be a whole bunch of hero, or instead of hero orbs to be Milim orbs, maybe we could have swapped the orb for Milim and called it a day. But it's not. And I actually want this hero ult because it is AoE, right? And she is light, so it's going to do extra damage. She's going to have the crit, she's going to have the resistances down plus the orb damage, so it'll be pretty good. So here, we're going to, I think, seal the ult, or swap the ult away, and then use Shion's own skill, and then swap her out. I think it's what we're doing. Maybe I don't do that. Let's see. Come on. Past life, Joker. What are you doing with your life right now? Alright, so we've used a stack of attack with Shizu. Not on Milim, though, but it is going to hit the hero and Shion. Okay, so we did do that. We are using Frey. We should have enough to get a full hand. We do not use the Shion buff, so we keep her in. But this also does get us a hero ult, which is great. And then we can have all 3 ults next turn. We can bring Allison to give Shion the Pierce rate. So unfortunately, Milim is going to miss that. But, oh well. It is what it is. These 2 units have type advantage, so it's better off that they have it anyways. So we'll use the Pierce power. We're up to 67% again, which is fairly good. Alice comes in. No, not Milim. There you go. Alice comes in for Shizu. We'll use the Pierce power. And then, after bringing Milim in, who already has her crit and attack buff ready, right? So we don't have to use that again. But now we use Frey, give us the 40 points, give us the full hand, and gives us just enough to reuse the hero's debuff skill. And there we go. It's going to maximize our damage as much as possible. So Milim, the hero, well, Xion the hero, Xion, pretty good. Milim does 72k, meh. Xion does 127, okay. And then the hero does 36 across the board, so 369, over 100k there. So that's why I wanted an alt with her. 99.8 with Xion. It's pretty good score, and then we'll move on, and this is the final turn of nothing. And there we go. So our final score ends up being 60k, so about 5k-ish higher than the Light 2.0 team. Still not in the hundreds, right? But it's still a team that you can use. You could very easily swap in Protector Guy. You know, he's changing the greens, he's giving alts, so you could just keep throwing alts at them, you know, for maybe extra damage. Totally something you could do. But let's move on to Boss Battle 2. Alright, for Boss Battle 2, first segment is going to be the Goddess of Destiny team. Again, just to show you how it runs against a single target and how I wanted it to go now. One important thing to do if you're going to run this setup or something like it is that you want to make sure that Triya is in slot 1. Because whoever is in slot 1 is going to get 3 orbs that are not greens. It's going to be like 2 blue and an orange, but it's all going to be for the same unit. So either you could have Triya there and immediately use her steal and turn all of them to greens, or you could put whoever up here, and then you could bring Shuna in and steal those, because they're going to have the 3, and then you can steal the other 3 green orbs, and you can have a 6 orb send of Shuna turn 1. I opted to go for Triya because I wanted the extra points, because I don't want all these nerfed orbs, because they are nerfed immediately. So let me go ahead and put this up, and I gotta figure out where the timestamp is. Here we go. Okay. One other thing to note is Veldora does have, like I've said, Pierce resist, so no point in bringing the Light 2.0 team. You're going to do really bad damage. I tried it already. But here is turn 1. We have the 3 Triya orbs that are orange and 2 blues, and you have 3 other greens. So either you have Triya in slot 1 to swap those into greens, or you bring in Shuna for Triya and steal the other greens that are there. Either way, you can do what you want. I end up doing this, with swapping them all to greens, and then we bring Rain in, and then I also, if you didn't notice and I didn't point it out, I'm running the 2 skill point units on the front line to give us the 40 points, so I could use the swap and the Rain's green buff immediately, so that gets us 100 points, gets us a lot of alt gauge, because I do want an alt for Rain. It doesn't need to be an EX alt, but I do want an alt for her in this fight, because they are both a single target, her and Shuna. So here we're going to guarantee that we get the next future hands of greens, and then we're going to swap out Sokka for Shuna, send 6, and then light buff and crit damage buff, and then use Mirren. So we're going to get a lot of damage on this turn right here. It'd be nice if we didn't have that blue, but, you know, we're going to get at least 1 in here, and it's better 1 than 5, which definitely happened twice. Back to back, I had 5 blue orbs or something like that. It was stupid. It was actually stupid. So 87k right there, cool. 18, 20, 18, 44k. There's a full hand plus the alt with Shuna. We have the heroes, so we can swap that away into just a natural full 6. And then we're going to use the magic buff now, so we can take advantage of its full power before it runs out. So we're going to get the 40% magic buff plus the 20% resistance down. We're going to leave the turn as it is, but we are protector sealed, as you see. It happens on turn 3. It's only for 1 turn, but it means that you cannot use your protector at all, regardless of what you do. There's no protector seal dodge skill or something like that. So it's good that Mirin lasts for 2 turns. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting any follow-ups and crits and all that. So we're going to do this. We've brought Soka back in, trying to get an ult for her because she does lower defense on her ult. So if we can get an AoE ult for her, and then a Rain ult, and then a Shuna EX ult, we're going to look real nice. And thankfully, we're 2/3 of the way there, and very, very close to being done. So we have an EX ult for Shuna, excellent. We have an ult for Rain, excellent. They no longer have to be up front. So let's use the Shuna buff now, so we can hold on to that for next turn. And then that still leaves us 55 points to hopefully send another full hand of greens. So we don't have the green buff active right now, so I do want to use that as well, but it really cuts down on what we can do. So we're going to use the buff here, right? Ooh, we're going to sacrifice it. We'll use it next turn. Hold on. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do, Joker? What do we do, past Joker? I gotta think real hard about it. I actually have to think really hard about it. Alright. I wish there was a way to fast forward this. Is there? There is. Okay. So I'm debating how many points to get, and we end up using the buff. Both buffs, and we pray. Okay. Well, that works. We can swap out the ult into 5 greens. That'll still get us full points because they are green buffed. Unfortunate that we have that one orange just sitting there. It would have just been nice extra damage. It is what it is. But we can still get an EX ult for Rain and an ult for Shuna or Soka. So this actually works out fairly well. Not quite the outcome, but it still got to a very good outcome. That didn't make any fucking sense. Sorry. Alright, so now we have an EX ult for Rain and Shuna and an ult for Soka. And we have some hero orbs that we can swap out. So let's use the resistance down, not the attack buff, because Shuna's not up front. And then we have to forego, I think, the magic buff. Oh no, we have enough, because we used the Shuna buff earlier. So magic buff and the attack buff. So that's a 45% attack buff. It's now a 20% magic buff and 20% resistance down, because it is after turn 3. We'll use Mirin again. The only way this could have been better is if we had more Shuna orbs, or any Shuna orbs in those oranges. So if I wanted to go back and rerun it, I could, but it's RNG right there. So Soka, 73k, it's an AoE, whatever. Rain, 170k, meh. And then 481 with Shuna. Lots of damage right there. 54k in that final orb. 23, 53, 96, 27, 21,000. We do not break the 2 million barrier, unfortunately, so I might go back and do it on my own time. But that is how you would play this stage in its entirety. So up to 114.9. If we'd hit over 2 million, I probably would have hit 115, but whatever. This is a fine score right now. But that is the Gods of Destiny team. Let's come back for the last segment of this video. Alright, the last team is going to be this janky Veldora team. We know from one of my previous videos that Veldora and Shuna can work. It just takes a little bit extra time. And you would need so much turns to build up Veldora's max damage cap of 70%. Well, we only have 5 turns here, so you could get up to 70% if you get very lucky, but maybe probably you won't. But this is a team I ran personally. We've got Trya back in slot 1. Shuna being in slot 2 is debatable. You could have put her in the back and moved the hero up front and given Shuna some other support. It really doesn't matter. But we're running, again, the skill point units turn 1, so we can use the orb change and the Isis buff to get Veldora off and running. And then we've got Dark Milim for more orb changing plus the ult buff, and then the hero for the crit to activate Shuna's, crit damage. So, I mean, it's not a bad team, it's just not, a super great team. But it is for people that don't have any other option. But this is assuming you have Veldora, Milim, and you happen to get the new Shuna. So let's go ahead and put this up. I do have to skip forward a bit. Here we go. So here we've used the Trya Steel again because she's in slot 1, plus the green buff from Isis. So Shuna already being up here is good, but we're going to swap Dark Milim in, 1 for the extra points turn 2, which we're not going to need because we're going to cap out. But also this gets us close to getting her ult, because she is a secondary DPS unit. She is magic. She will benefit from the ult and the magic buff and the crit damage buff. Crit rate. She just won't benefit from the light buff that Shuna's giving herself and all that. But here is a pretty unfortunate hand, but we can work out of it because we have so many orb changers on the team. So we can get Isis out of here. Well, probably Isis. Come on, yeah, there we go, Isis. And then we can use Tria's orb change and then reset all of it, right? Reset both these skills, and then we'll be ready to go for next turn. The green buff is obviously still active. This will get Milim's ult, and I think we send it. We'll get Tria out to keep her in the back, to keep her in, just to ensure we can orb change good next turn. We will have Veldora here, but he's going to be sealed, so we can't use him to reset anything right now. So whatever we have this turn, we kind of just have to run with. So we're going to not rewind here, because I don't want to do that. Or we do run it. No, hold on. No, don't be dumb. What am I doing here? Stop clicking things. So we're going to steal. There we go. So we're going to send all this, and we're going to send the ult as well, just to get it out of her hand, because we will most likely get another ult for Milim, and she doesn't need an EX ult because she's not an EX unit, but we do want an EX ult for Shuna, so that's important. So here, like I said, we're going to get some Milim orbs. But here now, we don't really have the option to go for an EX ult with Shuna, just because we got kind of unlucky with the orbs. Is that we got a lot of Milims, which is cool and nice and dandy and all, but because Isis is nerfing those oranges, we didn't get the maximum amount of ult gauge. So we're going to rewind here, and we're going to try and make up for that. So we're going to bring Tria in. We're going to swap Shuna out, so I guess I've just lived with the fact that we're not going to get an EX ult for her. So obviously this run could have gone a lot better, but I need to get these recorded and done and finished and loaded. So it is what it is. So we brought Isis in. We can use Veldora to reset that cost, and then we can use her orb change. The green buff I think we still need to use, so we're going to put that back on. This will get Milim's ult again, plus some. And yeah, there's not much else we can do. I kind of wish I had left Shuna in, but at the same time, not really all that necessary. But the rewind kicks in, and we're only at 181k, so this is not a high-scoring team. And we've already used like all of our orb changing, so we've already swapped everybody out. It'd be cool if we could bring Shuna back in for this and steal all those, but we can't. There's no real point in using any orb changing here. We're just going to send these Milim orbs. She's going to have double ult gauge, cool beans, whatever. But we had to hold on to that Veldora because we want the magic buff. So here is the final turn. We'll bring Shuna in for Tria, and then we'll bring the hero in for Isis, and we'll use all the buffs, and we'll send what we have. Again, ideally you want this flopped where we have an EX ult for Shuna and a normal ult for Milim. Maybe an ult for hero if you can somehow swing it. Not really that important, but you can. And then we can also use Milim to orb change all these, even though they are all Shuna orbs anyways. But this will get us a full hand, and it'll work really well once we tone it down a bit. So we can get a full 6 send of Shuna. There we go. So we could have orb changed with Milim and gotten full greens and had 1 extra hero orb, or we'll just send it and have 4 Shuna orbs. So Shuna does 269. Alright, and then we end up at... what do we end up at? 801,000, so definitely much lower than the 2 million that we did with the full meta team, but again, it's an off-meta team. Veldora is a great protector, don't get me wrong. It's just that 5 turns and being locked for a turn is not his forte. So you use what you got, but that's going to do it for this Jubilee video. Again, most of the teams I use for Boss Battle 1 you can transplant into Boss Battle 2, and vice versa. You can use Veldora on Boss Battle 1 and he won't be restricted really, except for still the turn limit, but you can use whatever you got. So let me know if this video helped you out. Again, let me know if you want these split up in between 2 different videos or just one big video. Please, I would really much appreciate those comments. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all next week when I get back.